Alright folks, how's it going? That video I did about holding some ACWI or maybe, all those ETFs that are in the black section of the portfolio, that got me thinking about how I report the taxes for ETFs that are held in GIAs. Because actually, I haven't actually held any, apart from ERNS, which I use to reinvest my cashback from my Trading 212 card. So that is an ETF that's in my general investment account on Trading 212. Obviously, like the standard advice is, it's simpler for tax reporting to have the income units or the distributing units. Sorry, they're not called units really, are they? The distributing share class of ETFs and units of OICs as well. It's simpler in a taxable account for the tax reporting. So yeah, I've just been looking into how you actually report the tax on ETFs. And I've discovered, obviously, the concept is, well, let's have a look for the one that I do actually own in a general investment account to start with. It's the ultra short bond fund. I mean, obviously these aren't going to be classed as dividends, but it's the set. I think the retrieval of the data is the same for these as it would be for an equity ETF as well. But obviously the tax will be different because this will be, I think it's counted as interest, even though it's like a coupon from a load of bonds, isn't it? So what I've discovered is this ERNS is a distributing one. However, for ETFs, apparently, the amount that gets distributed isn't always everything. And actually, there's a thing called excess reportable income, I think. And you don't get given the information, because if we look here, this is the information I got for ERNS last year. And we can see here, this is the amount that actually got paid into my account from ERNS, because that's the only ETF I hold. So yeah, just to double check, this is the exact amount that was paid into my account in that year. Yes, and this is like the summary page. Obviously, equities have got that amount of dividend and that amount from ETFs. Now, from what I've been told, obviously I don't know this for sure because I've not had it myself, but if I was to have held a accumulation version, that wouldn't show, because that other page I showed you wouldn't show either, because it doesn't actually pay anything out. That number wouldn't have been shown. Now, from what I believe, open-ended funds, OICs or unit trusts, that information is on the tax statement that you get from the broker, so it's a bit different for OICs. And also what I've been told is, sometimes what's being distributed isn't the full amount, and you have to actually go and find if there is any extra. And apparently you have to go to the source. You have to find it on their website, which I'm doing here, as you can see. So if we look there, I don't know if that's the year ending 25. I guess that probably is the year ending 25. Reportable income. And then I think we can just open the spreadsheet here. And it always seems to come in this form as well. It's not separate files for each fund. It's every single fund that they seem to have at iShares by the looks of it, I don't know. And actually the years don't line up either. So this reporting period is the 1st of June to the 31st of May. And I think that's because these ETFs aren't specific to the UK. Well, it's actually an Irish ETF, and there's lots of different countries you can buy it in. So that's why the dates aren't, it's not kind of set up for the UK tax system. So we need to work out which one's ours. Now, just to make, obviously we could probably do it by the name. It's probably one of these that's in pounds. It's probably that one. But for me, I'd rather do it in a more accurate way than that. So I think what I do is the ISIN is like an identifier for the fund. I think we can see it in the spreadsheet actually. I think this column C is the ISIN. I might have got the acronym wrong. Where is it? Here we go. Key facts. There we go. ISIN. So I would just copy that. Find. Paste. Let's have a look at the number actually. Have I guessed right? IEOOBCRY64. Yeah, I've guessed right. But if I hadn't just seen that randomly, I'd have just done Control F and then pressed Enter, and it would have found it like that. So we can see my information for ERNS. In fact, let's make this very easy to look at and just delete all of the other ones. So the information we get here is excess reportable income per unit is 0. This is where my question comes in about whether the conventional wisdom of having distributing ones outside of tax wrappers makes sense, because sometimes it's 0. Well, a lot of the time it's 0 for these distributing ones, because all that means is all of the income was actually distributed this year. But it's not always the case. That's the thing. So what you would do, so if we go back actually, well actually one more thing to, as the question marks in the title of the video says, I have questions, you know. As I'm talking through this, I'm just putting across how I think it works. If anyone has experience of doing this, please put it in the comments and correct me about what I've sort of deduced wrong. But what I'm thinking here is, it's got a fund distribution date of the 30th of November 25. I'm looking at all the other dates. I don't think there's anything a distribution per unit. So these are the actual distributions which I actually received. So these two numbers, they're accounted for in the statements that Trading 212's given me. Those two numbers is what generated the 171. But actually, no, I don't think that's right, because that date would be that'd be this tax year, wouldn't it? The 25th of June. So maybe it's that number and that number from the spreadsheet the year before. Maybe that's what generates the £171.32, along with how many shares I owned on the ex-dividend dates. Yeah, so I don't think that's it. But yeah, the excess reportable income, that will be zero some years, and I think it was a little while ago I was looking into this. I think if we go to the year before, just to show that it's not always zero for the distributing ones, if I just type in the ISIN again and find it, I remember that one of them did actually have some ERI for the, yeah, there we go. So we can see here, excess reportable income per unit, 0.0499. So now what I'm thinking you do is, for the distributing ones and for the non-distributing ones, the accumulation ones, I think what you do is, you use this fund distribution date here of the 30th of the 11th, and I think what you do is, however many shares you owned on the 30th of the 11th, now I'm not sure what happens if you sell on the 30th. I think maybe it's how many you owned before the market opened, perhaps, or the close of the market the day before. I'm not exactly sure. I guess I just avoid selling on those dates. Or what happens if you buy on that date? So I'm thinking what you do is you multiply by, because there's no like ex-dividend date for this, it's just one date. So I'm guessing however many shares you own on that date, you multiply by the excess reported per unit, and that gives you a pound amount. You should be taxed as if you had that extra amount of income. And then the cost basis of your holding for capital gains purposes would go up by that pound amount as well. So what I'm thinking is, I would go into here, so I mean these numbers aren't accurate, but let's say I've got, so for ERNS I've got here, so I don't think I owned it on that date, but what would happen is, when I do my reporting of my income, which is actually done here, where do I put, so I kind of collate all of my tax information in this little spreadsheet each year. And so, I mean, for this one, it would be probably in this section, but let's pretend this is a dividend paying one. So for this one, it would go in probably the non-UK equities, because it's an Irish domiciled fund, and then that extra amount, that 0.04 multiplied by however many shares I had, I would add here in my dividend section of my little tax spreadsheet. I'd add it in here, on top of the amounts that I've got from all of the statements. And then in my spreadsheet here that kind of tracks my capital gains or losses, I would add that same amount here to the cost basis. And that would adjust my kind of profits when I eventually sell. So the reason I'm questioning whether it is actually easier to own distributing ETFs is that if we did it with a accumulation fund, this process here would be exactly the same every year. There will always be an amount of income, be it dividends or income from a bond ETF. There would always be a certain amount you have to put in there, and there will always be an addition to the cost basis here. It would be consistent every single year. Whereas by owning the distributing one, some years this spreadsheet won't have a number added to it, and neither will this one. So it feels like by some years that number being zero, the ERI being having a number, and then some years it being zero, it builds in an inconsistency, and like you can't look back at the spreadsheet and remind yourself how it worked. I don't know, for some, in my mind, I'd rather it be the same process and always have. So I know when I look in the cost basis and I see little numbers added to it, and I can make a separate note of it somewhere in the spreadsheet as well. I can see like this year that number was added, next year that number was added. Whereas I can't like see. I suppose I could just put plus zero in it. I suppose for years where it's zero. But I don't know. There's a consistency to having the accumulation one, where I feel like maybe that's just as easy, and you're not given a chance to forget how it works. Also, for me, I'm going to want to put it on auto invest for dividends. And so it's going to create extra admin, typing in the reinvestments twice a year or 4 times a year, however many times it is each year. So it adds admin. I'm doubting whether it does make sense to go for the distributing ones, specifically for ETFs. Now I think it's different for open-ended funds because they don't have this excess reporting income thing. So for open-ended funds, I think it is definitely easier to go for the distributing ones. Now that's all of this is dependent on me having understood it correctly. I'd love it if someone in the audience has done this regularly themselves, and if there's anything I've worked out wrong here, and if you know about what happens if you buy or sell on the exact date. Yeah, I think it's complicated because these funds aren't designed for one specific country. Just as another example of how you actually find the information, let's go for this. Let's go for an accumulation one. Let's go for VHYG, shall we? I've not actually done this before for this one. So let's go for an accumulation. High world dividend. I wonder if I just search for the word excess maybe, or reportable. Oh, it should be in the document, shouldn't it? Annual report, interim report. Oh no, sorry, I've done this before. I remember being confused with the Vanguard. Yeah, I couldn't find it, and I think I just searched here, income. I think I just searched there, and I got like a master file. Here we go. General account tax return information. Vanguard UK investor. This is the problem. Every fund provider is different, and you have to go rooting around for the information. UK reporting full list of. No, I don't think it's there. I think it's here. UK. That's. Are we the participants? I wonder. I think we are. Report to participants, here we go. I think this one's blank from memory. I don't think it's far enough into the year yet. I don't think they've updated it. Yes, I'm right, yeah, that's blank. So this is for last year. Is it downloaded? Yeah. Yeah, so this is the year before. ISIN. No, can't find it. Key facts. Index ticker, is that it? Index ticker? No, that can't be it. It must be in this document. Man, Vanguard are making it harder than all the others by the looks of it. Right, there we go. ISIN of that. Let's search for that. So this is it. You could do your tax return and still not really be quite sure if you've got it right, couldn't you? Because this is also not finding it. Maybe this isn't the right file. Excess reportable income. Oh, here we go. Oh, sorry. That's Vanguard. Okay, there's different sections. These are the ones we need, aren't they? So it must be in this one for the previous year. Oh, hang on, no, June. So this one might be there now. So if I go searching for that ISIN now. Okay, so it's row 39, and everything is tiny. Yeah, they make it so much hard work. Yeah, it looks like I've got the right fund. Although, why is it US dollar? I think it's in US dollar because if we go to the income version, if I remember correctly, the distributions are actually made in dollars. Maybe that's why it says US dollar. Yeah, look, these are all quoted in dollars. And then I guess your broker, if you own this version, your broker would convert it to pounds when you get paid it. So maybe that's why. So then it begs the question, what exchange rate do we use when we use this number to calculate our income from the accumulation version. And the same for the distributing, I guess, for the excess stuff. Yeah, what date exchange rate? Or what time of the day? Yeah, so I think that's how you do it. Anyway, yeah, this wasn't a very structured video. Please let me know if I've misunderstood anything or if you have any information that can clarify my confusion about these things. Well, let's put a little question to Reddit, shall we? Yeah, well, I probably cut it out, but I wasn't getting to an answer looking for an answer to that exchange rate question. Yeah, I'm sure it's easy enough to work out. Maybe I'll ring HMRC and ask them or something, I don't know. But yeah, there's got to be somewhere guidance on what date and what exchange rate to use. Anyway, there we go. I'll leave you with all those questions, and I'll leave you with me being still a bit confused. So I'll see you next time. Bye bye.